Dr. Rob Henderson is known for having coined the term luxury beliefs, amongst other things. His memoir, Trouble, is also something that I highly recommend. I've read it more than 3 times now, and every time I read it, it never fails to conjure up insights for me to reflect upon. Hi everyone, my name is Kim. I run a company focusing on corporate training, business consulting, and employee engagement. We have worked with more than 10 multinational companies and more than 2,500 employees across 15 different countries, including Canada, Australia, China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, Korea, Singapore, Malaysia, and so forth. And today I want to share with you a personal perspective on Dr. Rob Henderson's luxury beliefs. So if you're not familiar, luxury beliefs are beliefs that confer status on the upper class while incurring costs on the lower class. An example of someone who espouses luxury beliefs would be, as Dr. Rob Henderson has shared in one of his articles, or actually in multiple of his articles, that when he was at Yale studying, he would see a lot of students denigrating investment banks and financial institutions for their lack of care for the environment, for their capitalist approach to business, to the fact that they were making a lot of profit and not paying their employees enough. But these same individuals are the ones who also would attend career fairs where there are financial institutions. And he believes that the reason that they would denigrate these financial institutions and companies publicly was so that they could undercut their competitors. They would perhaps plant in their competitors' mind that, hey, you shouldn't be working in these financial institutions. And if their competitors fell for their proclamations, then they would de facto have fewer competitors to compete with when they eventually apply for these institutions. So the idea is that you would publicly proclaim certain beliefs so that you appear to have high social status. But if your beliefs trickle down to people of a lower class, then they would be the ones who would suffer from the consequences of following your beliefs. Another example that he has shared before would be that people in top universities would publicly denigrate the idea of marriage, rendering it traditional and outdated and obsolete and oppressive against women, for example. They would say, on the other hand, in private, that they plan to get married, they plan to have a nuclear family. And when asked why, they would say, oh, this just happens to be something that I think is good for me. But for the public, I don't think that's the case. But if you think about it, if high social class people were to disseminate ideas that marriage is too traditional and therefore obsolete, then if the lower class people were to emulate this, then they're the ones who are going to suffer from having consequences like having to bear children as a single parent parent, and they would have to bear consequences of the financial burdens that would come from being a single parent, for example. So the upper class people would enjoy the benefit of being known as modern, for example, but the lower class people who follow these beliefs would then suffer from them. And you may wonder why I'm sharing about this, having introduced myself as a business owner, because I have seen these instances before. So there's this one time when I was seeing a senior leader in a really renowned company, in fact, one of the most renowned companies in the world. They invited me essentially to deliver a session on the importance of resilience, that you should be someone who works very hard and overcomes challenges, and you should not hide and phase in the face of setbacks and barriers. In fact, the leader was really respectable. She has a soothing voice, she has authority, she's very nice, she's not arrogant, extremely knowledgeable and intelligent as well. And she even shared with me that, hey, you know what, I think that working hard is in fact really important. There have been times where I experienced setbacks, but if it were not for these setbacks, I would not be where I am today. But at the same time, these leaders, the person that I'm referring to is not the only one, because I've met many of such leaders, some of whom are not our clients, but leaders I've met as prospects. They've shared that, hey, you know, when you run a corporate training session, you want to make sure that everyone feels extremely positive, that you don't want to mention anything about negativity, setback, challenges, barriers, and so forth. And then I would think, hey, if you would like the session to be a celebratory one where everyone just celebrates and be happy, that's fair. And in fact, we need that. But if you want to talk about resilience and its importance, and you want to convey that everybody should espouse the mindset of being resilient, then I don't think it's reasonable to only talk about positive things. You also need to talk about challenges you have to face, because that is what being resilient is about. Being resilient is that you bounce back from challenges. So if there are no challenges, then what's the point of resilience? Or why even bring up resilience? It's just contradictory that way. How can you talk about only positive things but also talking about bouncing back from challenges? It just doesn't make sense. And these leaders would express concerns and they would say that, hey, I don't want to talk about negativity because I don't want people to feel negative. I want everyone to feel positive all the time. So what I saw going on is that these leaders are the ones who know in private that being resilient is important, that facing challenges and feeling negative at times would actually be good for you. But they are not the ones who want to publicly talk about resilience and challenges. So what would happen is that they would be leaders who would be perceived as compassionate and kind and who care for the well-being of their employees. But secretly, they know that you need to experience setbacks to make yourself a leader in the future. And I think that that would be an example of luxury beliefs in the corporate context. Because again, these leaders are seen as positive, as kind, as compassionate. But if their employees then do not learn or are deprived of the opportunities to learn about setbacks and challenges and how to overcome these setbacks, psychological tools they could use, for example, to overcome these challenges, they would be deprived of these opportunities because we are not allowed to talk about them in corporate training sessions. So everyone just thinks about being positive. So when they do handle setbacks or when they do encounter setbacks, they don't know. They lack the necessary tools and frameworks to overcome these challenges so that they could learn to build themselves up as individuals. So what would happen? They would take a longer time to learn. Or if they're unlucky, they would quit the company because it would be too much for them to handle because they were never taught how to handle these things. If we want to give the leaders a benefit of the doubt, it could be that, hey, they were just trying to be nice. They perhaps do not know what the consequences would be if they deprive their employees, the lower class, compared to them, the opportunities to learn about resilience. But if we were going to have to think about them in a way that's more cynical and skeptical, are they trying to undercut future competitors? Are they trying to actually deprive them being the employees, the lower class in this case, the opportunities to learn so that they wouldn't eventually rise to be potential leaders and potential competitors of these existing leaders? I don't know. What I can share is that I've met an abundance of leaders who do not want us to talk about setbacks and challenges. The ones who do want us to talk about them are leaders that I believe are really respectable. And fortunately, most of the clients that I work with are such respectable leaders. But if you meet leaders like that in your own life, then I advise you be very careful. Of course, it's great if a leader is compassionate, cares for well-being, mental health, and so forth, but I think a leader who does not also talk about the other side, there's resilience and challenges, and that I think would be the majority of what you would face at work, then you have to be careful. Take the extra steps to learn, run the extra mile, learn yourself. And that I think is luxury beliefs at play in the corporate setting. And we should be careful of people like that and careful not to be someone who is like that, whether intentionally or not. I hope you learned something new from this video. If you have, please like the video. Leave a comment to share your thoughts and ideas. I would love to hear from them and I would definitely respond to all of them. Subscribe to the channel as well if you'd like to find out my lesson or the lessons that I've learned watching Alex Hormozi's video. Please watch the videos that are popping up right now and I will see you in the next one.